All right, it says we're live. I don't know if I am, but don't knock that over. Are we live? Can you see me, guys? Trying something a little different here this time. Let's see. Don't know. I'm gonna be able to read it there. Got a little bit different setup here, guys. There we go. All right, we're live. If it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because I got this other screen here going, but I'll try to read your comments and then answer your questions as I go here. Before I go though, or before I start, last time we had a bunch of questions about this trimming wheel that I use right here. Here's a brand new one, so I'll open that up. And I'll show you that before I forget. But right there is the wheel. This is a Rotoclip flat wheel, and you can see how narrow it is, like that. What it's got in it is a whole bunch of, well, 6 inserts in this one. They come in different sizes and styles. This is a 4.5 inch 6-slot flat. So if you look at it, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in it. Typically when I trim, I take all of them out except the 2 opposing ones. And that way I can have, I'm only using 2 blades at a time. That way if this does throw an insert, then I've got those other ones to replace it eventually. But that's how that wheel looks. You can see that. But yeah, that's all there is to it. These come out with a set screw in the back here. So these are, you can resharpen these as well. So that's why I use them. Running 2 carbides will make it more aggressive. You'd think it would be less aggressive, but because there's only 2 in there, that each rotation of that wheel, it will, as you're grinding down, for each rotation, it'll drop a little bit further before that next knife blade or that next carbide will catch. So that's how that happens. But let me adjust this a little bit. There we go. So you can see me better. All right, let's get to the, and then my knives. This is the knife that I use right here. You can see that. This is how it starts out. This is how the blade starts out. The ones that I use for trimming like lesions and stuff will be the ones that I've thinned down, that are thinner from sharpening. And then I'll take this hook and shorten this hook up as well. I don't need that hook that long. I just need enough to be able to hook that loose hoof horn. But you can get a better look at that. So yeah. All right, I might have missed some questions here. Let's go back to the top, see what we can do. Oh boy, sorry. Yep, I missed a few. Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. That's right. All right. Hello from Sacramento. Hello, Jennifer. Theory of Clubs. Good afternoon, Meatballs. You betcha. What else is going on? So if you guys got questions, throw them at me. Do cows remember you, or is it the time in between visits too long? Well, some of them I see every couple of weeks, so they'll remember me. They're not, I wouldn't say they're like excited to see me, right? Because normally if I'm seeing them multiple times in a short amount of time, it's because they have a sore foot and they don't really like you messing with it, even though you are trying to help them. But yeah, I do have some that recognize me that know it's time for pets. 5J, you've seen her on my videos. She's a Jersey on one of my farms. She'll come and visit. But you had a question, Lisa. The last time I didn't see an answer, so I'm going to try it. Fire it away. Do you get any new colors on your wraps? I can get whatever color you want. Whatever color you want, Rhea. So if you want purple, I can get purple. Black, yellow, pink, orange. You see a lot of orange lately, pink lately, and that's because I had some followers that wanted pink. But And then oranges, I mean, the reason I go with the brighter colors is because after a couple days they get filthy, and it's easier to see those bright colors to not miss them, so you can remove them on time. Because if you don't remove them on time, they can cause problems. But hello from Appleton. Hello, Amy. That's where this shoot was made, in Appleton. The shoot that I use, I should say, not this shoot. But okay, why did it jump here? Tongue out Tuesdays, yeah. I don't trim in that heifer barn where those heifers always did that. But yeah, if you didn't see that, I have a video where sometimes cows will mess around with their tongues. They have really long tongues. I had tongue out Tuesday for a while. These heifers seemed like they were constantly, what they would do is lick on the head gates. And then I don't know if it was like, it caused like their tongue to get numb or something, and they wanted to stick it out, but they kept doing that. But I don't trim in there anymore. The heifers get trimmed in the barn where I'm at now. So how do the cows adjust to the blocks in respect to being higher on one side? Personally, would fall on my face. Well, yeah, you got to realize though, they have 4 legs to start with. So they got 4, and it's only a half an inch difference, right? It's enough to get that injured claw off the ground, but it's not crazy distance that it's like lifting them up a foot off the ground or anything like that. Just enough to take the weight off of that when they put the foot down. So on a back foot, when a cow puts that foot down, that outside claw, these are the 2 claws, this outside one is going to hit first all of the time, unless you elevate that, no matter what you do. So let's say this sole, this medial, if you didn't have a block on, was just slightly deeper, this medial claw would still hit first. Because when a cow takes a step, she actually puts that claw underneath her, and the foot will land lateral claw, then medial claw, and then load, and then she goes. So in order to take the pressure off that, you put a block on this claw, otherwise, just to make sure that this one doesn't. Then when that foot comes down, this one will actually load and avoid this lateral claw altogether. All right. How funky is the smell after the cut? It depends on what I'm dealing with. Abscesses, they vary, right? You can get some that are really awful, but you can get some too that don't have much odor at all. The things that smell the worst are tonocrosis. That you can smell, that's awful. Foul, you can smell that. I can figure out, if you were to give me a smell test, I could diagnose that just by the smell of it. Same with digital dermatitis, you can smell that too. It's got a distinct smell to it, but yeah, they vary based on what's in there, put it that way. Can we see the dog? I would, but okay, so right now we've got 2 dogs in the house. Meadow, which you guys have met before, she's 3 before this fall. And then we're fostering another guy. His name is Mikey. He's half pit, half lab. He's 14 weeks old. But I got him in the kennel right now just because if he's out here, he wants me to play with him. So you might hear him whimpering. He wants to come out, but I'm going to try to get through this live without him out. Because he's not potty trained and he likes chewing on shoes. So I got to kind of watch him when he's out. But he is up for adoption. I do want another dog, but I don't want the responsibilities of another dog. So we're fostering because there's a high need for foster parents for dogs right now. But the problem is you start to get attached to them, and it's happening. As soon as I got him, my brother commented, "Well, it looks like you just have 2 dogs." Yeah, so it might happen, but. What do we got here? They're left-handed knives. Yeah, there's left-handed and right-handed. I get the double-edged just so I don't have to switch hands or switch knives with what I'm doing, right? If I want to make a cut this way or this way, I can still use the same knife edge, right? Or the same blade. I don't have to switch them out. Some guys do run a left and a right-handed knife though. Just not I've always had double-edged, so I don't know. Why don't you use iodine? I used to use iodine all the time until it's probably been about 15 years now. I just switched to chlorhexidine. So what would happen was I came home, my hands were always stained with it. Get it all over the place, right? When you're spraying stuff, you've seen how filthy things get. But I had iodine all over my hands. And my mom, who was a surgical nurse, was looking at that, and she's like, why don't you wear gloves? And I'm like, well, I hate wearing latex gloves. I hate the way they feel. They drive me nuts, so I don't wear them. She's like, well, why are you still using that? Why don't you use chlorhexidine? I'm like, well, because I don't know what that is. So anyway, she explained it. She was, as I said, surgical nurse, use it for prep. So I started looking into it. Well, research shows that it's actually better than iodine. So I switched to it, and I've been using it ever since. The thing with chlorhexidine is it doesn't degrade when it comes in contact with organic matter. So you spray it on there, it'll last longer. It'll be has a longer lasting barrier on the area you're trying to clean. Whereas iodine is degrades almost instantly when it gets contaminated like that. So does this mean you have to go to bed now? No, that's only on TikTok. That's the TikTok thing. Not sure why that is, but. Have you ever trimmed hooves in Minnesota? I have. I used to have 2 farms there. Both of them have since sold their cows. But yeah, just across the river in the Nodine area, I had 2 farms. And I trained in Minnesota originally, near Plainview. How soft is the separated horn? It always looks rubbery-like compared to the normal hoof horn. Yeah, hydrated horn is going to be softer. It's not, it'd be like car tire rubber, it's still pretty hard, right? It's not soft. It's not squishy soft or anything like that. It's still it's got some consistency to it, but it looks like that. It looks like it's soft because the knives are sharp, so you can cut through it pretty easily. But have you ever witnessed animal abuse or terrible living conditions when doing a trim that required you to contact the authorities? No. I had one, I talked about this on the last live I was on. I had one where the cow had I don't know if I'm assuming she had fallen down, slipped, and it was like a pool of water, and it was cold out. So now the owner wasn't there. He was down at the other farm feeding. So I don't know if he hadn't been up there yet, didn't see it, but that would be the most, I would say, closest to, I wouldn't say it's even abuse. My guess is the guys couldn't get her out because she was in there and were waiting for him. But when I left, I told the farmer about it, and he was going to take care of it. So, but it's not an easy thing to do to handle a cow that weighs 1,600 pounds when they fall either. But how often do you have to consult a vet for a trim? Not very often. Most of the time, vets will consult with us when it comes to trimming, or they'll have us do the trimming just because we have more experience. We trim, anywhere from 200 to some guys will trim 600-800 cows a week, versus a vet may only trim a handful in a month, right? They have more of the surgical expertise. If it were to come to a claw amputation or something like that, I can't do that, obviously, so I don't. But as far as consulting with, normal trims, not very often. We don't have to do that, but. What's your plan for further of this channel? Really excited. I don't know. I'm just going to keep going as is. I've got my son was asking me questions about that the other day, doing some real in-depth long-term videos that, take a long time to put together, but are really comprehensive as far as growth and stuff like that. But that's down the road. There's a lot, working all the different platforms, there's a lot of work to do, and I'm solo right now, so. But more of the same stuff. I'm doing a few little changes you'll probably notice as we get going here. But do you think people would love watching you do your job? Did I ever think that? No, I did not think that at all. I figured it would be used as an educational resource for people other hoof care people maybe, and to work on just to watch how other people do things. But no, I didn't expect just people, the general public would enjoy watching it. Never thought that would happen. So that's cool. Have you tried biodegradable wraps so they disintegrate on their own? I've seen them. There are several different kinds of those. But I kind of let them play out amongst other hoof trimmers before I try them. And I've gotten mixed mixed reviews, I will say, on the different types of biodegradable wraps. The thing is so when you trim and wrap a foot, if there's a problem there, there's an upcharge as far as me doing it, right? So because it takes time to do all that work. So there's a charge for the wrap and a charge for the block. If you put a wrap on and before you're even gone from the farm, that wrap has fallen off for whatever reason, farmers don't like to see that, right? They want that wrap on there to serve a purpose. And if it falls off, because that's what it's designed to do, if they fall off, they don't like that. So I try to just stick with what works unless there's something that's a clear cut, go to switch. Same thing with block glues and things like that. I don't experiment because I've got one that I really like, right? So it's just, for me, I know what to expect with it. I don't have to worry about anything going wrong with it, really. If it is, it's probably something that I did versus the glue itself. So, because I know, or the wrap, because I've got so much experience working with them. Same thing with my knives and things like that. I like to stick with something that works, that I know works, because it's your livelihood that you're working with, right? But do you ever feed hoof scraps to dogs on the farm? I do. Well, I shouldn't say I do. They usually come and do it on their own. They're clean up. They work around my chute. So you got to kind of keep an eye out because my chute elevates. You don't want them to get underneath there when I put a cow down. But yeah, they come and do that. Dogs, they like hoof chips. They like those as their snacks. What do you use? Why do I use that particular knife? It scares me because I'm thinking you're going to dig down on that sore spot. Why do I use this particular knife? Because number one, it's double-edged. Two, it's got a real thin profile to start with. I don't know if you can see that, right? This knife has never been sharpened, and it's thin already. So when I do sharpen it and put an edge on it, I can get it razor thin and razor sharp. So I can make real precise cuts with it, but I try to be as controlled as possible with my hoof knives, so then you don't have to worry about it cutting down in there. If you notice when I'm working around lesions, I'm not taking off huge chunks of hoof around those lesions. I'm working real carefully around the edges to try to free them. So if you're careful, you're not gonna make big mistakes, especially when working around lesions. You shouldn't. There are times where, it's unavoidable, right? But, well, they're moving me along here. They want me to go faster. Oh boy, you guys have a lot of questions here. I got behind and it wants me to ask more questions or answer questions faster. From Appleton 2, hello, Gina. Let's see. Okay, how deep are the foot baths? Well, you want them minimum to be able to cover at least dew claws, right? So anywhere from 6 to 8 inches minimum depth. And the key is you want to get several dunks of each foot as they walk through that. So it's really about length more so than depth. You have a minimum depth obviously, but you want to make sure that foot gets put in there a couple different times to make sure that that area is fully saturated with the solution. But yeah, you want to cover the dew claws. I don't know if you've noticed sometimes a dew claw is just as susceptible to getting digital dermatitis around it if it's not getting treated with a hoof bath or foot bath. You've seen that in some of the videos where you get those, the dew claws will get dermatitis in them. It's the same situation. So I like to have it at least that height. And it helps too because toward the end, the cows are going to bring some of that hoof bath solution with them out of the foot bath. So the level in that's going to drop over time. So you want to make sure that it's deep enough. When you have a cow that has some tonocorosis, is there ever an instance where you can't cure it? If so, what happens to the cow? Love your channel, dude. Thank you. And yeah, there are times where you can't, how would I say it? What happens is the bone on the inside actually is breaking down. There's a loss of blood flow in there, so it slowly dies inside that. So what you're trying to do is eliminate all of the necrotic area that you can, or the necrotic tissue. Sometimes that's difficult to do, to get all the way in there, and it oftentimes takes a long time to be able to get those to heal. And what ends up happening is you end up with a claw that's about that long when you're done. And it'll you'll get it to heel over, but it's obviously never going to be normal again. They actually get along quite well with that. They're able to walk on that other claw. Luckily, most of the necrosis you see is on lateral claws, so they still have that medial claw to walk on. Even amputation cases, when they only have one claw, they do well if it's the medial. I've even had some that do well when it's the lateral claw is the only one that's there. So, but fostering a dog, how much more awesome can you be? Well, I got to give my wife credit for that, actually. She wanted to be the foster. I knew what would happen if we bring dogs in here. I get attached to them, and that's what I told her. We've got a couple leads on people where they might adopt or potential to adopt where we could still see them, which would be perfect. But yeah, you get attached to them. But I give her the credit. What's up, Nate? Do you ever make mistakes still? Go too deep, etc.? Yeah, on occasion. But like I said earlier, the thing is if you aren't aggressive when you're working around lesions, you're not going to make big mistakes, right? Minor little nicks and stuff, not a huge deal. It's going to happen. But as far as making, devastating mistakes, I don't make those anymore. And I'm not sure I've ever made any that would have cost a cow its life trimming it. In general anyway, but certainly back in the day make mistakes that make them uncomfortable, right? And they have more of a healing process to go through. But as far as anything that threatens them, no. Small cuts, small mistakes. So you want me to buy him off of you, Nate? Well, you don't have to buy him. You get him for free. Well, as free as fostering can be. I think you probably have to pay something, but how did you get into doing what you're doing? I worked on farms my whole life, and then when I was in college, I worked on a larger dairy, 500 cows, and that was one of my jobs, was to help the hoof trimmer when he came to the farm. So that's how I got introduced to it. And then when I got done with college, well, before I was done, but as soon as I got done with college, I started training with him. I asked him if he wanted to train me about a year. I had about a year of university left. And he said, yep, he'd do it. So the weekend that I graduated college, I started training to be a hoof trimmer. Worked with him for about 3 months and then started on my own. We used Hibiclens and betadine in hospitals. Hibiclens is chlorhexidine. It is, and I think it's actually, the chlorhexidine I use is 2%. I think Hibiclens is actually 4% chlorhexidine glutamate. Your style is different to the hoof GP. It's interesting to watch the different approaches, your take on different ways of trimming. Yeah, he uses the Dutch method of trimming, and I use a more natural trimming method, which all that is the way that the soles are trimmed. I don't really have anything to explain that very well, but a normal hoof or foot is going to have the claws, the back feet are going to be angled slightly, right? So between the two claws. So the Dutch method trims that so that it's perfectly flat, like they're walking on top of their feet, whereas the natural method, you maintain a uniform sole thickness like they would be in nature. That's how you trim them. So, and the difference with the Dutch method is you trim them flat and try to focus the weight to go to the outside. So that's why they look different. But yeah, they're two of the primary methods used. There are some other variations to those, but do you do hoof treatments like salicylic acid contaminate milk and dairy cows like some other drugs do? Contaminate milk? No. If you were to, they can detect it in milk if there was a high concentration of it, but I think they do test for stuff like that, but as far as something on a skin like that, you would never get enough of it to make it into the bloodstream to contaminate the milk from that. And it's a long ways from the udder, if you will. Oh, there we go. I got 2 screens working here, so I'm trying to look at this one. Do you get nose blind to the cow poop? Yep. I don't. It doesn't faze me a bit. Don't notice it. In fact, I feel more comfortable when I'm around it because I've been around it my entire life. So it doesn't faze me. It's everywhere, and it's everywhere around here anyway. Even in the spring, even if you're not a farmer, You smell it. You get used to it. Do I trim other animals? I do not. Nope, I've trimmed one goat in my life. That's it. And that was just to be nice, kind of. What was the coldest temperature ever you were working on a farm? Plus, do you like IPAs? I don't like IPAs, really. Not really. I stick to lattes, bush lattes. The coldest I've ever trimmed, something like, 30 below, 26 below, actually, was the coldest I've ever trimmed. But to be fair, it wasn't actually 26 in the barn, so. And you got to realize in the barns, you put a couple hundred cows in there, it actually stays quite a bit warmer, right? But. How's your neck? Your finger's still numb? Yes, my thumb, it's not too bad today, but yeah, it's like tingly, pins and needles when you touch right here, but still pinched, still gonna be that way. But I've been sleeping a lot better the last, I don't know, probably 5 months, so that's a plus. That's the biggest thing. If I can sleep comfortably, I can deal with aches and pains during the day. It's not a big deal, but if I sit around too much though, I start to notice it. I gotta keep moving. Have you ever put a block on backwards? I have. Well, you mean on the flipped over? Yeah. It's pretty hard to put it on the wrong claw, but I've had them the other way before. Put glue on them anyway. I don't leave them like that. You could, it wouldn't really hurt anything, but I like them to look the way they're supposed to look, even though the cow doesn't know which way it's facing. When you do show a barn cat or dog or calf, it's great. You like that? Yeah, I see them plenty. Lots of kitty cats. There's gonna be a lot more coming soon by the looks of things from what I've seen lately. That is Farmer's Brew root beer too, by the way. Not actually beer, but still tasty. How did you get started doing hoof care? Did you have to go to school for it? There are schools for it, but I started by training with another hoof trimmer. I think it's the best way because you get lots of repetition, a lot of reps, and you have someone there to help you if you run into a problem, or just to get you through the normal, cow flow, when problems happen, what to do, how to deal with problems, all of that. You can handle it. You can have someone that's experienced all of that there to guide you through it those first few times. So it's a real help, let alone just the practice of getting all those trims in. That too is pretty nice to have. What happened to the animals when you amputate them? I don't do any amputations. I don't have, that's all vet stuff. I don't have the, whatever you'd say, certifications, I guess, to do that type of work. But they actually get along pretty well. You wouldn't even notice that they were missing a claw. The funny part is they rarely will get problems in that remaining claw, right? So typically you got 2 claws to bear the weight of a cow. Take one away completely, this one almost always stays healthy. So that should tell you something, right? That should make you realize that it probably has to do with more on how that foot lands and how that weight is loading on the claws that causes the problems, more so than the actual amount of weight that's being applied to them. Because if it were just weight, that you would expect that claw to go bad quickly, but it doesn't. Rarely does that happen. It would be nice to see the total healing process all in one video. I've got a bunch of those, actually. If you go on to the main channel and look down, I should probably make a playlist of all of those. I haven't done that yet, but yeah, I have a lot of those. And then some that were pretty severe, actually. One was a pedal bone one. She is in a playlist, actually, where there was a pedal bone fracture, and we followed her all the way through. It's a bunch of different videos, but not just one. But I have made them where they're all in one video. It takes months to do that, to make one video, but that's why I don't. All the best from the UK. P.S. Trump is a loony. Well, you got to deal with that sometimes, I guess. Not much we can do about it now. Hopefully, in what'd you say, UK? Yeah, UK. Yeah, we'll see what happens here in the next couple weeks. with that. You never know. We don't know either. So you're not really much, I would say, more, we don't know as Americans what's going to happen next. We're kind of just living by the seat of our pants right now, too. What he does differently than Hoof GP is gentle and care about them. This is cool. Welcome from Mass. Hello. I still get confused with corkscrew hooves. What confuses you about them? So basically what happens is if you have a normal claw, right, it's going to be like this. But what happens is that bone on the inside will start to rotate. And when it does, this hoof horn is going to wear differently, right? And when that happens, you start getting an accumulation of hoof horn. And actually, most of the time, it's going to be like that, right? You're going to have an accumulation of hoof horn here that doesn't belong there. So then this claw starts to rotate, or corkscrew, as we call it. So by trimming, so what you have to do then is remove this extra hoof horn that's on this side and bring the claw that was facing like this back into balance so it stays straight. Sometimes that's genetic, but a lot of times it's environmental. So if you can figure out what's causing that, you can prevent that from happening. But otherwise, you have to just trim it and try to maintain the way it is. But it doesn't, most of the time you're going to catch them before they get really corkscrewed all the way around. It does happen though. You'll see it on beef cows more so than dairy cows because, well, dairy cows we get trimmed a lot more. But it's bumping me ahead again. Do you use iodine ever? I was talking about that earlier. Nope, not anymore. I used to. That's all I used for about the first 5 years that I trimmed. And now I switched to chlorhexidine. It's just it's a better disinfectant. They both work really well, but chlorhexidine will stay on or provides a longer lasting barrier, right? It actually binds to the keratin in the hoof. So it's like a invisible bandage kind of, or an invisible covering over it, protects it longer. So that's why I use it. And it's cleaner, right? It's clear, so I can still spray the lesion out, clean it, and be able to see what I'm doing around the edges. Which, I mean, if you want to be able, if you want to be able to see clearly, you could use water and then iodine at the end, I guess, but whatever. It's easier just to use chlorhexidine. What do you do when both front hooves or back hooves have digital dermatitis, etc.? Both claws? Then I would wrap it and have the cow move to a bed pack instead of putting her in the general population on cement. Move her to a bed pack where she doesn't have to walk around, doesn't have to compete with other cows until it can heal, and they don't have to walk as far. No block in that case. Just because, a block is to isolate weight. And if you have both claws on either foot, back or front, if both claws are bad, you don't want to isolate weight on an injured claw. So no block. What's my favorite animal? Favorite to pet would be a dog. Favorite animal in general? I would say probably fish are probably my favorite animal. Like I said, not to cuddle, but I like fish. What happened to my thumb? I've got a pinched nerve pinched nerve, a severe narrowing of C6, between C6 and C7, in my neck. So that pinches that nerve, which then sends pain into my shoulder blade and down my arm. Not so much in my arm anymore, but then I can feel it I have numbness in my thumb still from that. I make you sleep comfortably. Well, that's good, Amanda. That's one thing I didn't expect, was being able to relax people. To me, it's kind of, watching something that's kind of makes me tense if you're wondering what's going to happen. But live, this is awesome. Back when YouTube's hoof care explosion, I started following it. Yeah, that was fun. Those were some fun years. Well, as far as YouTubing goes, but that was also during the pandemic when that's all we had to do, right? You ever work on farms in the Marshfield area? No, I don't get that far east. The farthest east Well, yeah, the farthest east I go is only maybe a half hour from my house, Sparta-ish in that area. North, I have a farm by Bruce, but that's one I've had for a long time, but nothing, no, nothing over by Marshfield. Some hooves are very hard, others are soft. Do you use different knives for the hard hooves? I don't. I end up doing more grinder work on those. So if there's a situation where I would use a knife, I'll use a grinder more so on the hard hooves. Around lesions, that hoof will actually become soft because there's usually fluid that goes along with that lesion that will soften that hoof horn and make it so I can cut it. But otherwise, no, I use the same knives all the time. Yes, I have a video. I have a knife sharpening video. Yep. Is it true cows cannot walk down steps because of their knee joints? Well, I don't know if they will jump though. They will jump down steps. I've seen them do that. There's a couple different farms where I've seen them work their way into the parlor where they're milking down in the pit. And if you know, you know. If you don't, they are not supposed to be there. So that's where the milkers and stuff are applied to the cows when they come into the parlor to get milked, and they stand up here, and there's like an area down below where the milker, the hired people are working or the farmers, they put the milkers on as they come in. Well, if a cow gets down in there with you, that's not good. There's a lot of expensive stuff down there, and if they decide to thrash around or run around and bang into stuff, they can break some stuff in there. Why don't they shoe cows? They used to, right? But now it's just easier to put a block on them when you need them. Why don't they shoe them all? Because what's the best way to put it? It's not necessarily, it's a balance issue that's causing, and the way pressure is applied to the hoof that's causing the problems, not a injury to the bottom of the hoof that's causing the problems. You know what I mean? So a lot of the times when they use horseshoes, it's to protect the bottom of the foot from debris or to give, like when they used to do it for oxen, it was for traction in the fields. That's not what we're trying to protect from. What we're trying to do is balance, keep the hooves balanced and make sure that they're, applying the correct weight to them so they don't have problems. That's the best way to explain it. So you could shoe them probably in theory, but it wouldn't be advantageous to do it. That's the best way I can explain it, is that we're not trying to protect the bottom of the foot. That's really not the goal. Why does it seem that you have so much less bleeding than other hoof guys I've seen? It seems I just work slower, and that's probably a detriment as far as speed goes and stuff like that. But to me, I try to, and I can't help but feel that way. It's like when you're working on something like that, you can't help but think of it like, if that was your own foot, how would you want to be working around it, right? You wouldn't want hard pulling on it or anything like that. You'd want them to kind of work real carefully. So that's kind of why I do it. And I practice like I've been trimming for 23 years now, and that's just how I've always done that. I've always trimmed that way. So if you trim like that long enough, you just, you get good at knowing what you can and can't do and trying to stay within those, in your skill set or your boundaries. And frankly, and a lot of it too is I don't get super aggressive with horn removal. If you notice, right, I don't go to the bare minimum. What I'm trying to do is free up that lesion, and that's usually all you have to do. You don't have to go crazy around it, go and remove a ton right away. I like to get that lesion free. That's where the problem is. And then when you go back for the recheck, it's much safer then to remove all that other hoof horn once it's firmed up underneath there. So that's really the strategy that I use with that. You have a good radio podcast voice. Another source of income? Oh man, I don't need another job. I've got enough work as it is. Too much. But yeah, I've been told that. That was actually a insecurity of mine when I started making videos, was my voice, right? But I guess everybody hates the sound of their voice when they listen back to it. Work smarter, not harder. Exactly. Yep. Do the cows have health care or is it all out of pocket? It is definitely out of pocket. You couldn't afford most, what happened here? We missed some. Most, any farm animals you're not going to have insurance for because it's just, it would be astronomically expensive. I missed some here. What's an example when you know that you've done all you can and you must stop and involve a vet? The best way to explain that is if it's infection related or it needs drugs or anything like that, or surgical related and starts to affect areas outside of those hoofs or those claws, that's when I refer it because I can't do anything there, right? So that's where either the herdsman, if they can administer certain drugs or antibiotics, things like that, or the vets, that's when they do that. But getting close to bedtime, yeah. Not for me yet. It's only, what time is it? A little after 3-ish maybe here. Can hoof trimmers be called farriers? I generally don't understand what the difference is between a farrier and a hoof trimmer other than farriers trim horses' hooves, not cow hooves. That is the only difference, really. No, we can't be considered farriers are trained a little bit differently, right? So I could call myself one, but I wouldn't be trained in it. Does the breed of cow change how prone they are to bleeding during the trim? Nope, not really. The only real difference you see with cow hooves are, dryness based and not really on breed, and that's more so on environment. And like jerseys will have a larger hoof. How would I say that? Larger hoof based on like what you would assume would be based on the size of their body. Their footprint is actually larger, which you'd think would be opposite, right? But it is. Seems to be more surface area on a Jersey's hoof than there is on a Holstein's hoof, even though they're a smaller breed. And as far as hoof problems, the lighter breeds, lighter I mean smaller, generally you're going to have less hoof problems, which also is another thing that points to, the way weight is distributed on those claws or pressure is applied to those claws. The more pressure, than the way it's applied, the more likely you're going to have hoof problems. What would you do if a cow had no mouth, yet it must scream? Is that a riddle? I don't know. What about the cuttlefish? Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. What's the solution? What's the solution for the stuff that I spray on? What's that solution? That is chlorhexidine, if that's the question. Difference between breeds in terms of hoof health. Yeah, I work primarily with Holsteins, so most of the videos you see are of Holsteins. But I've got some Jersey Cross farm, or one that's a Jersey Brown Swiss Cross, right? That's a grazing herd of mine, or that I trim on. And what else? Well, some that have a bunch of mixed breeds, right? Usually they'll be primarily Holsteins, and then someone decides they should have at least one Jersey because they're cute as calves. And then they start getting a few, and then they might have a Swiss mixed in here and there. But for the most part, I trim mainly Holsteins. How many blocks have you put on a single cow? I've done probably 4, I guess. 4, I would get, yeah. I don't think I've ever had to do more than that. And those were thin sole situations on a bull, actually. Back feet. So on a bull, just from breeding, they will wear their soles thin on their back feet. So you don't want to isolate weight on bad cloth. Both those are thin. So you put rubber blocks on both of those claws to act as some cushion, takes the pressure off until they can heal up. But You know the bull's doing his job if he's wearing his feet, his soles thin. Am I aware of how helpful my videos are for anxious insomniac people? No. Is that good or bad? Do I relax you and put you to sleep, or am I boring and you can't help but fall asleep? Yeah, I guess. I was thinking at first, I was thinking to myself, well, it can't be because I was boring, because that's not how these algorithms work, right? If you're boring and people fell asleep, well, they'd quit watching videos. But then I thought, what if they have them on autoplay and they did fall asleep? And it all makes sense. I don't know. You broke your neck at C5, C6. Oof. Yeah, arm and hand. Yeah, that was the part that actually, yeah, it says I'm dealing with pain down my arm and hand. I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, that was what actually, believe it or not, it wasn't my neck that was actually that sore. What started was I was driving and I felt like a pinching in my shoulder blade. Didn't think much of it, whatever. Just another, part of me that was sore. But then it started getting worse. And I was going to trim one day and it literally felt like someone was sticking a hot knife in my back. And no matter what I did, I couldn't find a position to make that pain go away. And I actually turned the truck around halfway. I was about an hour from home. Turned the truck around and came home. I'm like, something is wrong here and I don't know what it is. And from there, it just went downhill. Then the pain started shooting. My whole arm was sore. Started to, feel like it was on fire. Then my hand went numb. My fingers started going numb. And then I started getting scared. So I went to the hospital and they immediately started checking you for stroke stuff at that point. And then they started thinking, well, the physical therapist came in and said, and actually diagnosed exactly what it was before I did anything. They gave me a bunch of stuff different drugs to try to take the pain away. Nothing did, even the really good stuff. So I was out of commission for about a month with that, just from pain. Did an MRI and found it was had a severe narrowing in there. But yeah, that's the worst pain I've ever had to deal with, and don't want to ever deal with it again. I'm real nervous that it'll happen again, but I don't know. I've tried to, I've got a cervical pillow now that I sleep with that helps a ton. I don't wake up like I used to wake up, which is great. How do you differentiate coloration from areas that hide a lesion underneath? If you can see a change in color, then it's probably separation, right? But if you take that first layer you've trimmed that first layer and it looks like it's black all the way down through, well, then it's obvious that it's just hoof color, right? And once you have some experience, it's pretty easy to tell the difference. But at first, I can see on a video why you might think that it's two different things. Or that it's the same thing, but it's not. It's distinguishable. What was the worst hoof I've ever worked on? Well, the worst hoof itself probably would have to have, it's deep digital sepsis. That's where the infection is actually destroying everything on the inside of that claw. Those are the worst as far as hoof goes. But as far as most dangerous, it's actually when hoof rot or foul starts to go up the leg. That leg will swell and they'll get humongous. And that's life-threatening for the cow at that point. So once they become immobile, they don't have much of a chance anymore. So, have you had any forbidden cheese by accident? Yeah. Had it sprayed in your face? Yep. You do it long enough, it's guaranteed to happen. Can you work or trim in any state, and do you have to be licensed? You do not have to be licensed, but I can work. Yep. That may be different based on the country, though, so you got to check on that. Good to see you too, Ayla. Thanks for joining. Why do you cut up the cows like that? Jack says, why do I cut? Because they have hoof problems. They have a problem inside the hoof. So, and what happens is that hoof layer will separate. And in order to That's what the cow is doing to try to heal that hoof. That hoof will separate on its own. But we can speed it. What I do as a hoof trimmer is try to speed that process up. So I trim away the loose horn that's around it, the hoof horn that's bad, trim that away so it can heal faster. I don't do it for fun. I do it because it's a necessity, right? It's part of, if you own a cow, you either have to have someone that can do that for you, or you gotta know how to do that, because it can be detrimental if you don't. Hello from the UK. We often see you gloveless. Yes. Is that when you highlight a specific issue? Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I'm always trimming with, you'll notice that if I'm running a grinder, I'll have my leather gloves on. And most of the time when I'm using my knife, especially when I'm doing big stuff, I'm gonna have my gloves on. If I'm pointing something out, yeah, I take my gloves off. But I don't wear latex gloves underneath though, because I hate them. But Uncle's Dairy Farm in central Minnesota, yes. That's nice country too. A lot flatter than it is here, but. You broken your C1 in a car accident? Yeah. Neck stuff's terrible. Had a few bad discs, yeah. Lots of people with neck problems, huh? The interesting part too was when I went in there and was explaining, what I thought was odd was that it just seemed to happen out of the blue, right? I was fine, and then within a day, excruciating pain like I've never felt before. So I was like, how can something degrade to the point where you go from fine, not noticing anything wrong, to not being able to even tolerate being awake? But talking to the doctor, he said that's common. Most of the time, people will say they woke up that way. And that's kind of what happened. So, yeah, unless you have a big operation, you will use a hoof trimmer. Yeah, and even most of the big operations still have hoof trimmers come in. It's just easier. You don't have to worry about, training a guy and then having them leave and go out on their own, because that's what happens. So they hire guys to come in. The guys that trim all the time, they have their own equipment. They come in, they're quick, and they're they know how to handle cows, so it works well. Oh, I don't know if you can hear it. Puppy's snoring over there. He actually snores louder than I think he should for a puppy. Do the farmers do any maintenance on their cattle in between your visits to keep problems from arising? Cleaning, checking for pebbles, etc. Checking for pebbles, no. But if they have like foot baths, they do all of that. I don't do any of that. And then a lot of my bigger farms do have hoof chutes, small stationary chutes where they can pick a foot up and look at it if they need to. But as far as the trimming, I do most of that though. What do you call a bull that has been knighted? Sirloin. Good joke. I missed some of these before, that's why. Scariest interaction you've had since you started hoof trimming? I've never really been in danger for my life, I wouldn't say. I got stepped on once, which injured my ankle severely, but didn't, I wouldn't say I was ever scared. The most scared I get was when I had a cow that got her foot. So in my old chute, the belly band arms could come up. They come up to a certain height, and what happened was this cow there's two arms inside there. This cow got her foot up and through that one of those arms when it was lifting up and was caught in there. So I had to try to lower and then she started to tip forward besides. So there was pressure on that leg. So the cow was elevated, tipping forward. There was pressure from that belly band arm, like pinching onto it, plus her weight pinching on it. So I was like frantic to try to get her foot out of there before something happened. They can, with that, it takes a lot to break a cow's leg, but that is something I do not want to have happen ever. That's the scariest I've been, not for my sake, but for the animal's sake in that case. But luckily with my new chute now, that's really not a danger. It's kind of blocked off, so they can't do that. They could put it up on, they could get it up on top if they were really flexible, but that hasn't happened yet. Why do you do only a few bulls? Because most of my farms don't have bulls on site. Bulls can be dangerous, so you know, having them around is you gotta be, it's tricky, especially if you have farms. Usually where you see them is on farms, smaller farms, or in bigger farms, they'll have them in one pen where he'll do the cleanup work. If there's, cows that don't get bred, most of them use artificial insemination to do that. So that way they can pick the bulls, pick the genetics that they want in the herd. A lot of times bulls that you would purchase, you're not gonna be sure of their genetic lines necessarily. They may have, let's say they have a bad foot gene in there. If you put a bull in with your cows and spread that entire gene throughout your herd, then that next, generation of offspring are going to have foot problems. So you kind of want to be able to select what you're looking for, and that's what most farms do. But they do have some bulls on occasion though, and that's when I have to trim them. Safety, ease, being able to choose genetics, all of those. There's a veterinarian shortage in the United States right now. Yeah, there is, everywhere, especially large herd vets. Have you actually registered a business with you as a sole employee? Yes. Yep. That's what I have, a sole proprietorship, actually. Working back through here. What else we got? Cow's hoof wall is thinner than a horse's hoof wall. There's nowhere to drive out. Yeah, they're right. As far as putting a horseshoe on, or a shoe on a cow. Yeah, the hoof wall is thinner, and like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a different. When you're with shoeing a horse, you're trying to, you're dealing with wear in that situation, but you're dealing with one individual claw. Where we have to deal with two, and the way that weight is distributed on those two claws is not the same. So if you were to tie those two together, you would have, you would affect that. But I guess you could do two individual ones on each hoof. That'd be tricky. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that would work well. Yeah. So yeah. What do we got here? I'll go back down. Just going back through. I missed a bunch of them there. I think I got them now. I think we're back caught up. You still have them, throw them out there. Where are the machines made that are used by hoof trimmers? They're made from all over. The one that I use personally is made in Appleton, Wisconsin. There is one, the Comfort Chute, I think is made in Baraboo maybe, or in that area down there. And then there's a lot of tip tables that are made all over the place. So I think some in Texas, maybe some in New York. I think, I'm not sure on that, but. After each month of treatment, you go back in and it's completely black. Why do you take that off? Why do I take the black off? I'm only trying to take away the areas that around where the lesion would be, to make sure there's nothing open on the inside of there. The black is really just staining, so you don't need to take that away unless there's still an active lesion there. I want to make sure that there's nothing open that needs to either be retreated, or to make sure there's not loose horn around it that would keep it. Chances are, if it hasn't healed in a month, it's because there's something irritating it that needs to be taken away. So you just got to kind of check on that. Does hoof fall happen to horses too? Yes, it does. It's called thrush in horses. Same bacteria. Causes similar problems too. I don't think it gets nearly as bad in horses as it does cows, but if you can't help them, will they be put down if you can't help? I mean, if the hoof problem was bad enough, yes, they could be, sent to slaughter, but You don't see that very often anymore because a lot of that stuff's caught pretty early, you know. It's usually have to worry about it when they become immobile. If a cow becomes immobile, then that's when you'd have to euthanize them. But how did I get into making videos? I'd made, so before this, I had a I had a fishing channel with a buddy of mine that we did. So we made some YouTube videos for that as well. That was prior to this. But then there was a break for about 10 years where I didn't do anything. I didn't really know what I wanted. I wanted to make videos, but I wasn't sure what exactly. And then I saw a video of a cow, I think it was on Facebook, of a cow in a hoof trimming shoot, and it was depicted as being tortured. And I thought, and there in the comment section was lit up with people that were just outraged that this was going on. Why would there even be such a contraption used to torture animals? And I thought, oh man, if they just don't realize what is going on here, someone needs to tell the story, right? And it should be someone that knows what they're doing, because then you can explain exactly what causes them, how to fix them, why we do it, all the things that you guys all know now. So that's kind of what motivated me to do it. I didn't expect to be doing it this long, and I didn't expect it to take off like it did. I thought it would just be, I didn't think it would, have the reach that it does. So that's the cool part about it. But I think he missed that one. Which one? Did I miss a question? I'm sorry if I did. If I missed a question, just throw it back up there. They go by me, and then I get a little long-winded in some of them. Sorry. Do you ever get kicked? I less now than I used to, because the way I set up, I'm not directly behind the cows when they're entering the chute now, and that's when you're most likely to get kicked. If you're, when you're trimming them, they can't kick you because there's we call it a come along that goes behind them that holds them forward, so they can't really kick backwards. That's keeping them from doing that. So the real danger is moving them in. You still don't look like you sound. No? Do I sound old? Or do I don't know. Do farmers watch my videos? Yep. I got some of them. In fact, some of the guys that I thought maybe wouldn't like me making videos are some of my biggest watchers of all my farmers. A lot of them don't watch it though because they can see it live, so. And it's really not that exciting to them. How do you sharpen the knife? I've got a bench grinder. It's got two wheels on it. One's a rubber wheel, and the other one has got a cloth polishing wheel. So then I'll start with the knife, and I'll actually elongate this edge. You can see that edge. It's kind of flat there, small, real at the bottom or top, either one. I'll make that longer and thin this blade out even more, and then I take this hook down. But yeah, I just use that bench grinder. It'll spin and I'll run it across there back and forth. Oh, can you see that? Run that knife back and forth like this, put that edge on it, and then I run it across the polishing wheel to get it really honed, But some guys use belt sanders. A lot of farriers use belt sanders to do it, but see, like right now, sitting for this amount of time, I can feel that pinching in my shoulder blades. You ever consider doing meditation videos? I don't know what I would do though. I would feel weird if I was whispering and stuff, clicking and all that weird stuff they do. Do you watch any other hoof trimmers on YouTube? On occasion, yep. I usually, I've really got a lot on my plate lately, so I haven't been doing much. I was just telling my wife how much work everything is. Trying to get everything done in a day, but so no. I don't spend, I do, but I don't spend nearly as much time watching them as I used to. Are there other ways of cleaning, disinfecting hooves other than foot baths in your area, and what is your opinion on them? There are, some people use a dry foot bath using lime, things like that. I'm not sure. I don't think they're as effective. If you have snow, that's a great way to clean the hooves. The other thing some guys do is spray them in the parlor when they come into milk. They'll actually spray in between their toes and their feet and try to keep them clean that way, or treat spot spray in the parlor with different things like a tetracycline mix or something like that. But as far as large numbers of animals on bigger farms, the best thing you can do is run a foot bath and run it often. Can you show us your international demographics in a video? I'd love to know how many fellow Austrians watch your videos. I can check it out. Yeah, I don't know if I can do it on here. I don't think I can do by country on my phone. Otherwise, I would. I'll check it for next time. How about that? The next live, I'll have it for you. When you started doing videos, did you ever think you'd have this kind of following? No. I never thought I'd be talking to people about hoof trimming in general, but let alone people that don't even have cows. So that's the interesting part. I figured it would be more of a resource for farmers, things like that, but nope. You ever get a jug of milk as an extra for your services? No, I haven't actually. I could if I wanted, though. They would give me some, guaranteed. I do get snacks. I get lunches brought to me sometimes. Yep. You suffer from carpal tunnel? A little bit. I shouldn't say a little bit. I've not been diagnosed, but I do wake up. If I fall asleep with my hand above my head, this arm will go numb. If I have a heavy week of trimming, then yeah, I'll have my hands will go numb when I sleep, especially. Wake up in the morning, they'll be numb, but. Did you answer, what's the strangest thing you found in a hoof? Oh, yeah. No, I did not. Not on this live, anyway. The strangest thing I found was about a 6-8-inch piece of pipe that was rusted off, like on the metal. The farmers will have metal gates, like to keep cows in different paddocks and stuff like that. Well, a lot of times that bottom rung will be in the dirt and in the mud and stuff, so they'll rust out. So what happened was that bottom rung, part of it broke away. And the part that was laying in the dirt had jagged edges from being rusty and stuff. Well, a cow had stepped right on that and pinned both of her toes together on that foot. So I put her in the chute, didn't notice anything abnormal when she walked in, and I picked that foot up and there was that piece of pipe wedged or pinned into both claws. So that's probably the strangest thing I found. You find teeth quite a bit, things like that, but I wouldn't say that's too strange anymore. Occasionally you'll find a nail or a screw or something, but do your kids want to follow in your footsteps? I don't think so. No, I don't think they do. We'll see though, it changes as they get older. They're young, 2 of them are pretty young yet, so they're not going to think. Jackson's getting a little bit older, but I don't know if I don't think he will. Do only full-grown cows need their hooves trimmed? Yep. Younger ones, they have great feet. I have that video too. I've got a video on calf hooves. I got to get that out too. I haven't done that yet. See, that's what I mean. I'm too busy. I actually have content that needs to be put together yet. And that was one of them. But no, mainly at 22 months is about the first time that I start trimming them. And then, every 5 to 6 months after that. What do you do when you aren't trimming or making videos for us to watch? I like to fish, I like to garden, I like to cook, and I like to relax, even though I don't get much time to do that either, because I've got kids that are in sports. I like to follow the kids around, watch them play sports. Getting into baseball season starting now. We're finishing up basketball season this weekend. The oldest he had wrestling, he's done with that. Youngest is is starting soccer now, and she does horse stuff as well. Busy. But other than that, yeah, I like to do those other things when I have time. How much time does it take to set up the camera for filming and editing? The camera, I just use my cell phone for most of my filming, GoPro sometimes. That sets up, I've got a magnet mount that I mount right on my chute, different angles that I want. Editing takes the most amount of time. So Each video, you know, if I have an 8-minute video, it's probably going to take, with everything, at least minimum of 5 hours to edit, voice it, thumbnail, prep, title, all the different platforms, make a couple different formats, things like that. There's a lot of stuff, boring stuff that goes along with it, but enough. Long enough. Do I buy all my hand tools from one supplier? Yeah, primarily from Armor Animal Health. They cover most of that stuff. I get my grinders on Amazon or Menards. They carry Bosch. But what do you cook? I cook lots of stuff. Oh, here come the kids are coming home right now. Right, doing a live.
Now?
Don't get the dog stirred up. But yeah, what do I cook? I like to get a smoker. I do a lot of smoke stuff in the summer. What else do I cook? Burgers, a lot of Italian stuff. Do the farmers appreciate the cost of your work, or are they dubious of the need? No, they used to be more so, you know, would worry about cost back in the day. I never get questioned about it ever at this point anymore. They understand the value and what happens if they don't. You know, it's all a matter of, to me, every time I come, the cows are in better shape. Jax, can you let him out? He wants to see it. But the more you trim, the more you keep those hooves in the best position possible, the better their, you know, profitability is going to be, the better the cows are going to do. So they don't even think about it really. Love your hat. Was born and raised in Shawano. Yeah. Twigs Beverage. That's right. Do you enjoy the process of making videos? The progress? The process. The process, no. It becomes monotonous over time. So you have to, the part that you enjoy about it is like trying to find new things to add to videos, but that's difficult too. Do you watch or follow any sports? Yep, baseball, football, college wrestling, NBA basketball, not too much. I watch Steph Curry, that's about it. But dog wants belly rubs, he does. He wants to be loved up. He said, that's long enough. You've been on live long enough. Now cut it short because we need to be petted. Dairy Country in upstate New York. Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, farmers are always appreciative. We like to help you and helps you guys out. Surprisingly, you can get sun drop down here in Texas. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Certain gas stations. Yeah. That's how it is. I was talking to a guy that was excited when I brought some sun drop in the returnable bottles, and he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen those since I was a kid." And then he told me the whole story about how if you break a returnable bottle in Shawano, it's like a cardinal sin because those things have been around for so long. So, and if you're wondering, Sundrop, Twigs bottles Sundrop, for those of you that don't know. You ever found a larva in an infection? Yep, it's getting to be fly season soon, so it'll probably happen this summer again. Any college sports besides wrestling? If so, what schools? Sports-wise, yeah, college football I watch, and what else? Not much college baseball. Occasionally college volleyball if the Wisconsin girls are doing well. The Wisconsin girls won the state hockey, or the college hockey national championship. But yeah, those are the main ones. Football and wrestling for the most part. How many trims do I do in a day? 40 to 50 on average usually. Most of those are just maintenance trims. So, have you ever considered hiring an editor? I have, but I don't know. I feel like I like to have the what would I say? I like having I wouldn't say control, but like if I want to leave for a week, let's say, I can leave and not have to worry about employing someone else. That's what's really kept me the size that it is, and not expanding even my hoof trimming business, let alone the video side. But how hard is the hoof? Butternut hard? Yeah, the outside wall, I'd say. Yep. Butternut, I'm assuming the tree, not the squash. Since you have a dog, do you trim the dog's nails? Nope, that's my wife. Nope, she does all that. I don't mess with dog toenails or chicken claws. Control of content? Yeah, control. Yeah, it's not so much the control of the content, just if I can, because I do all the filming anyway on the farm, but more so the, like I said, if I hired an editor, I feel like I would have to keep them with work. Otherwise, they would find other jobs to do. And I guess we could put out a lot more videos, but I don't know if that would get monotonous or not. How heavy is my chute when towing? About 5,000 pounds. Have you tried any fresh cow's milk from the cows you work on? No, not from the cows I work on, but I've had fresh. We grew up on milk straight from the tank as a kid, so that was normal. Do you do anything artistic or creative? No. Hoof trimming would be the extent of that, if you can even call it that. Can you trim pregnant cows, and does she fit in the chute? Yep, they do. They don't even look that much bigger. They get a little bit bigger bellies, but not massively bigger. So, yeah, the cows are docile for the most part. If you stay calm around them, they generally stay pretty calm. It's when if you start to get worked up, or another cow gets worked up, if another cow is spooked, then all of them in that group will get spooked as well. So you get kind of this like fight or flight reaction from the whole group of cows. So I like to keep smaller groups. That way, if that happens, you're not stirring up the entire group. All right, guys. Running out of wind. 3:47, hour 20. Good work. Oh, here's Mikey. You guys want to see Mikey quick? He wants to come see you. Can you see him? There's Mikey. See, look. There's I don't know if I can see how many people are watching right now. This is Mikey. Isn't he cute? Look at. They might adopt you. Do you want to be adopted by one of those people? Look, they're on there. Say hi. Yeah. He is pretty cute, isn't he? You can see how if you have him too long, you're gonna get, oh yes. You get addicted to him and don't want him to go away. You took a boy. Yeah, we don't want you to leave, but you should, right? We can't keep, if the problem is if every time we foster one, they end up staying here, then we're not really fostering, we're adopting. Then we have too many doggies, right? Is there such a thing as too many dogs? Only when it comes to shoes, right? And tear up all your shoes. Good boy. Go play with the kids. Go play. So yeah, check them out. What Humane Society? Cooley Region Humane Society. You can see them on there. You'll know who was caring for them the last few weeks. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, guys. Thanks again for Twigs for sponsoring today's live once again, and well, we'll see you guys on the next live. Thanks for watching, guys.